Hello friends, a very good morning to all of you. Today we're going to discuss about a territorial dispute between Armenia and Azerbaijan. This region is called Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. Now, for your prelims preparation, you should know that both Armenia and Azerbaijan are former Soviet republics. These are located in the South Caucasus region. This is the map that we're going to discuss in a while now. Now, this Azerbaijan shares its borders with the Caspian Sea, while Armenia is a landlocked country. It shares its border with Turkey. This region is Iran. This region in the north is Georgia, and for Azerbaijan, this region in the north is Russia. So this is a territorial conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan that we're going to discuss now. So actually, this region belongs to Azerbaijan. This Nagorno and Karabakh region, it is a part of the territory of Azerbaijan. But the issue here is that the majority population is Armenian. So the Armenians form a majority group here. Therefore, they are not very comfortable with the being a part of Azerbaijan. So this is the current map of the South Caucasus region, where this is Armenia and this is Azerbaijan, and this territory is Nagorno-Karabakh. So you may have seen in the news that in the last few days, the conflict has escalated into an armed dispute where major powers such as Russia, Turkey, and even France, United States, everyone has requested both Armenia and Azerbaijan to maintain peace along the borders and restrain from any actions that may not be in consonance with the objectives of peace in the region. So let us see what this conflict is actually and how it has come to the fore. Is there any multilateral institution or a scheme to uh, assuage the fears of the Armenians and Azerbaijanis regarding this conflict, and how it affects India within the region and beyond that region also? Okay, so let us see what is the conflict here. So this conflict started in the year 1918 when these two countries, Armenia and Azerbaijan, they both got independent from Tsarist Russia during the Russian Revolution and during the First World War period. They both got independence from Russia, which was the Tsarist Russia during that period. You may have learnt in the world history that during the October Revolution and this Russian Revolution part, where they these communists liberated these countries from the Tsarist Russia, but later on in 1920s they reoccupied them, and in 1920 this region again became a part of Soviet Union led by Russia. Okay, so this dispute started in 1918 when Armenia and Azerbaijan became independent from the Russian Empire. So again in 1920s, as we have discussed, that Soviet rule was imposed in South Caucasus, and predominantly Armenian populated Nagorno-Karabakh became an autonomous region. So earlier this region was a part of Russian Empire. So Armenians were living here with the uh, Azerbaijanis people as minorities. So, but there was not such an issue because they were all subservient to the dictates of Russian Empire. But when they got independent, these two countries got independent. This region started. A conflict started in this region as to where they would go in case of total independence of these countries. So this conflict started in 1918 itself, but it lasted only for 2 years because Soviet Union established control over this region again, and this region was made this because because there was a conflict in this region, albeit for 2 years. But Soviet Union realized that this region is a region of conflict, so they made it an autonomous region with uh, all the administration running by the Moscow government. That is the Soviet government. The demography remained the same: Armenians in majority and Azerbaijanis in the minority. So when the Soviet Union regime was about to collapse, when there were signs that the Soviet Union would not be able to make it uh, in the 1990s. So during the 1988, the there was a sense that Soviet Union might collapse anytime soon. So the people of this region did not want to be ruled by Azerbaijanese capital, or as you can say, by the Azerbaijanese government. So in 1988, this region, this Nagorno-Karabakh region, the legislature of this region voted in favor of being a part of Armenia because Armenians were in majority here. So it was obvious that they would wish to be a part of Armenia in case of independence from the Soviet Empire. This resolution that was passed was uh, not supported by either Azerbaijan or even Soviet Union at that time. That was Moscow. Neither the Moscow administration nor Baku. Baku is the capital of Azerbaijan. They both did not support this resolution, but Armenia, the capital of Armenia is Yerevan. So Yerevan silently or discreetly provided support to the rebel groups here so that they would rebel against the Azerbaijanese government, and they created a conflict situation here in the year 1988. So let us see what became, how the conflict unfolded and what happened during the conflict. This is the map during the conflict when the Armenian government supported this Nagorno Karabakh region's majority of Armenian people. The Armenian government and the Azerbaijanese government came into direct military conflict. So as you can see there here, the Azerbaijanese military occupied this region, this red region of Nagorno Karabakh region. The Azerbaijanese military occupied this region. However, Armenia, being a small country as compared to Azerbaijan, but it still controlled this rest of the Nagorno uh, Karabakh region, and it also occupied the nearby districts of Azerbaijan during the conflict. And these green postures that you're seeing here, these green regions, these were controlled by, these were occupied by Azerbaijanis. But this conflict, uh, as this conflict was going on, uh, an international ceasefire agreement was placed in 1994, which we're going to discuss very soon in the next few minutes. And this ceasefire agreement was made in 1994, but as this region remains a part of Azerbaijan and there is an issue of ethnicity of Armenians being in majority and Azerbaijanese people being in minority, this conflict gets flared up time after time, as recently as in 2016 and now just last week. So this region is almost similar to uh, it would not be appropriate for me to draw parallels with Kashmir, but this is almost a Kashmir type conflict between two countries, where a territorial conflict. So that's why we'll also see how this conflict is uh, being supported by India and Pakistan respectively as per their perceptions. So that's why I have drawn parallels with Kashmir conflict. So, anyways, so let us see about the international peace overtures, or the groups that have been made to buy peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan so that there is no further conflict over this region. So the group that was assigned the task to maintain peace between these two countries regarding this region was OSCE Minsk group. This group. So OSCE Minsk group was created in 1992 during the time of conflict. So as we can see that from 1988, these countries were fighting each other for this region. So in 1992, Conference on Security and Cooperation in Europe. So now what is this CSCE? This CSCE is basically a part of Helsinki Accords. So these Helsinki Accords were signed between the West and the East. Now East was represented by Soviet Union. So between Soviet bloc and the Western bloc, that is the Western Europe and the United States. So the two parties were West and East. Soviet bloc and Western Europe signed a peace agreement so that further conflicts or military conflicts can be avoided in the region. So an offshoot of of this group was CSC. So that this is the largest security organization in the world. It exists even today, and now it is called OSCE. So this OSCE Minsk group is a further political offshoot of OSCE. So CSCE is an offshoot of Helsinki Accords, and Minsk Group is an offshoot of CSCE because CSCE is now called OSCE. So this Minsk Group was to schedule a meeting um, on this to find a resolution of this conflict, so that a long-lasting peace can be secured between these two countries. So now, who were the countries which were part of this Minsk group? Primarily, France, Russia, and the United States were called the co-chairmanship. Were co-chairing this OSCE Minsk group, but uh, it is surprising, or it is fascinating, that this group has never met till now, because neither Armenia nor Azerbaijan has given a go ahead yet that they would comply with the uh, decisions of the Minsk group. So this Minsk group was an offshoot of CSC. It was designed so that a peaceful negotiated resolution to the conflict between Azerbaijan and Armenia can be found. It is co-chaired by France, Russia, and United States, and later on some other countries were added to it, like these countries, including Turkey. So the objectives of the Minsk process was to provide an appropriate framework for conflict resolution, obtain conclusion by the parties so that they can permit the convening of Minsk conference. As I have told you that there has been no Minsk conference till now, because none of the two parties, especially Azerbaijan, Armenia may agree to it sooner or later, but Azerbaijan has strong reservations against the neutrality of Minsk group, so they are not allowing the go ahead for this conference. So, anyways, this Minsk group is designed to, as we have discussed, it is designed to secure a peace in this region. But anyways, the as they could not hold a conference in Minsk. Now Minsk is the capital of Belarus. Okay, so they could not secure a conference in Minsk, they met in Budapest. Now Budapest is the capital of Hungary. They met in Budapest in the year 1994. Who met? Now these all the countries who were co-chairing the Minsk process. This France, Russia, and United States. So they met in Budapest in the year 1994, and uh, after active engagement, and especially by the active um negotiations and diplomatic solutions by Russia, this ceasefire was secured between Armenia and Azerbaijan in the year 1994. As I've written it about it here. Peace negotiations have stalled and clashes erupt. So even after these ceasefire agreement in 1994, after the Budapest summit, this region has seen flaring up of the conflict time and again, as I discussed that in April 2016, these ceasefire was violated, and last week, and the conflict escalated into an armed conflict again. So now, why Azerbaijanis are not in favor of holding a Minsk group meeting or the conference? Because all the three countries, all these co-chairing countries, France, Russia, and United States, have a sizable Armenian diaspora, and Azerbaijanis are mainly Muslims. Azerbaijanis are ethnic Muslims, and they have doubt that these countries will not go against Armenia, because Armenia is a Christian country. And more importantly, the power in this region is Russia, as this they were part of the Soviets and erstwhile Russian Empire. So Azerbaijan thinks that Russia already has a strategic partnership with Armenia, so it would not be a neutral party to to any further agreement in this region. So Azerbaijanis have a reason to disbelieve this group. So as this group is going nowhere, this group has been paralyzed. The the process of peace is suffering since the last 2 or 3 decades. Okay, so now last week when the conflict erupted, you may have seen that these three countries, France, Russia, United States, Turkey, were the first to respond, and they made some statements regarding peace, except of course Turkey. Because let's see one more thing here. See, Armenia shares its borders with Turkey. Now Turkey and Armenia relations are not good. A neighbor's neighbor is always a friend. Moreover, there is pan-Islamism here. Turkey is an Islamic country. Azerbaijan is an Islamic country. Both have good relations against a common enemy of a common Christian country. A common enemy of a Christian country. Armenia is a Christian country. So also Turkey has uh, Turkey does not have a good relationship with Armenia, because during the First World War, Turkey is accused of perpetrating Armenian genocide, in which almost 1.5 million Armenians were killed in between 1915 and 1917, and this is a big issue internationally. We're going to discuss about that also in the later part of the video. So now let us come straight to the ramifications for India. Of course, India has good relations with both Armenia and Azerbaijan. Our North-South International Transport Corridor, a very ambitious infrastructure project that we are pursuing in this South Caucasian region. um, we are finding routes to connect our country with Central Asia and Russia. It passes through Azerbaijan also. From Mumbai to Chabahar to Azerbaijan to Moscow. So Azerbaijan becomes important for our North-South International Transport Corridor. Uh, in 2018, we have seen that our External Affairs Minister, late Madam Sushma Swaraj, also visited the fire temple in Baku in Azerbaijan. Now, this fire temple uh, has historical significance for both Hindus and Zoroastrian communities, because they say that merchants from India went there and established a place of worship in Baku. So our external affairs minister also went there for to pay obedience to the temple. Anyways, so when it comes to Armenia, now there is a strategic angle to this. See, Azerbaijan is an Islamic country. This Azerbaijan is supported by Turkey and Pakistan also, because of a so-called pan-Islamism. Pakistan views this conflict through a lens of Islamic alliance, under which it supports Azerbaijan's position that this entire territory belongs to Azerbaijan and Armenia is an aggressor in this region. So, as Pakistan supports Azerbaijan here, and Turkey also supports Azerbaijan due to the so-called pan-Islamism, Armenia is automatically supporting India's position on Kashmir. So Armenia, being a Christian country, uh, it is supporting India's position on Kashmir just because Pakistan is supporting Azerbaijan here. Uh, Pakistan is the only country in the world that has not recognized Armenia as a separate country. Okay, it does not recognize Armenia. Neither it recognized that Armenian genocide that Turkey perpetrated in during the First World War. So this pan-Islamism is visibly present here in the South Caucasus region. So for India, let's see about as we have already discussed about our relationship with Azerbaijan, but when it comes to Armenia, just last year during an interview with a private news channel to India, the Armenian Prime Minister said that in the Kashmir issue we fully defend the Indian position and it is a firm position. So as I've told you, because of a common so-called pan-Islamic enemy, Armenian government is supporting India's position on Kashmir. In return, India, they have also reciprocated their commitment to India just in as recently as in March 2020, just 6 months back, when they wanted to buy some missile radars, and there were bids by Russia, Poland, and India, but they preferred the missile radars from India. Although a question of cost efficiency and technology was also there, but Armenia gave preference to India in terms of defense equipment procurement. So there is a strategic angle to it. There is a defense partnership angle to it. It is Armenia is helping India in its quest of make in India, of defense products and all that. So we have special relationship with Armenia. They, in terms of people-to-people contact, Armenia provides a visa-free travel of for a visa-free, actually a visa on arrival travel to Indians for 120 days. So they have special they have made special overtures to India so that we can further this relationship into a strategic partnership or some further or escalate to a further superior position. Okay. Now, as I've discussed earlier, that Pakistan is the only country in the world that does not recognize Armenia. So now this gives us an opportunity to strengthen our relationship with Armenia further because of the common enemy factor. Like Turkey, Islamabad does not recognize the Armenian genocide during World War One. I have discussed it with you earlier that the Armenian. By the way, India also does not recognize the Armenian genocide because we do not want to miff the Turkish people, and because it is very dear to that this so-called part of history is very dear to the Turkish people and the Turkish government. We are not going to, we are yet skeptical of miffing the Turkish government or the Turkish administration because by recognizing this Armenian genocide. However, we hold this card in case Turkish government or the Turkish president, that is Erdogan, sometimes later in may rake up Kashmir again and again, then we can say that yes, if you're going to talk about Kashmir, then we are going to recognize Armenian genocide that you inflicted upon the Armenians. So that is this is basically a pan-Islamic uh, cause in the South Caucasus region, which is going against the rest of the world, that is against Armenia in particular. So this issue is going to flare up again and again until this Minsk conference say, is held by the by its members and co-chairperson co-chair co-chairpersons, which is France, Russia, and United States. This conflict is escalating, but of course, Russia has already initiated a dialogue between these two countries, and hopefully, this conflict will subdue in the coming times because Azerbaijan has both Armenia and Azerbaijan have long and long and sustainable economic interests in this region. Azerbaijan is an oil-rich country. In case of a conflict between the two, the it may suffer losses in terms of its oil wells, or supply lines of its oil may get disrupted. Similarly, Armenia is a landlocked country surrounded by both Azerbaijan and Turkey. It may also have to suffer from some unforeseen circumstances in the future. Iran is in the south of Armenia. It is also a part of that so-called Pan-Islamic alliance. So Armenia also has some compulsions. Azerbaijan also has some compulsions. So this conflict may not, we can only hope that this conflict may not escalate further into a direct military conflict, and this may stop as it happened in the year 2016. So this was all about this Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. We'll meet next time with another topic. Until then, goodbye, take care, and thank you.